joins us now live in studio. She attended that briefing and is here to talk more about what came out of today's session. Heidi, the biggest thing, at least the one thing that's dominating chatter around the Nugent inquiry today, is the apology from Mark Kingon. All good and well that he was emotional, but has this apology come a little too late?
So, I mean, that is a very good question to ask, but we must remember that this is the acting commissioner, and he took over from Tom Moyane in March this year, while Tom Moyane was commissioner from 2014. So it might be a little too late, but I think it was well needed, given the fact that there has been extensive damage done. This is what we've obviously heard from the proceedings at the commission. And, you know, I think that the acting commissioner apologized because of all the testimonies that have been coming out of this commission, where there has been extremely low staff morale. There has been there's been hidden information from all these top executives. I mean, you listen to these witnesses testifying, which most of them are top executives, speaking about how very important information was hidden from them and how very key decisions were made without the acknowledgement of the heads of those various departments. And then we could just have a listen to what he had to say.
Very importantly, and it's been a fascinating journey for me as I've come into the office and I've had the opportunity to go through lots of documents, and I've made many of them available to you. But management has been disempowered in terms of the availability of information. A lot of information was kept in an inner clique within the organization. Now, I'll give an example. The Bain report and the diagnostics was not openly shared with everybody. So you couldn't make judgment calls. You get told this is the direction. You get the Gartner report, which is so fundamental to the organization. That is not shared as openly as it should. We then say in the Gartner report, no, there's a can of worms that's been uncovered in terms of the Gartner report. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that. I have not seen that evidence that shows there's a can of worms, and I think it may have even been stated in this very room. We then go on an escapade and we appoint Grant Thornton, which the Chief Officer of Finance alluded to. The report of Grant Thornton comes back to us in a PowerPoint presentation, which for me is not a forensic audit, with due respect. And if I look at that, it's all ifs and buts and disclaimers. But that report is also not shared with management to empower them. And you've got to wonder, if I do a report, why am I getting a report? Is it to keep in a closet? And I just suspect, if I may, I think there was a lot of maliciousness in it, because it was targeted at certain individuals. Let's find evidence.
So again, Mark Kingon's appearance at the Nugent Commission today, reinforcing the testimony of other people who've spoken about just how toxic an environment SARS has been over the years, and it's impacted directly on the feeling among employees, staff morale.
That is exactly it, Timbukile, and we actually saw the acting commissioner become extremely emotional during his testimony. There was a lot of emotion in the room today because we saw him, you know, he was brought to tears a number of times, and then you also had the audience, which consisted mostly of ex-staff as well as current staff of SARS, clapping for him, applauding for him after he apologized. But a very key element that has come out of all these witnesses in this commission of inquiry is the fact that there was an atmosphere of distrust, an atmosphere of serious fear and suspicion, and constantly having to watch your back. He was even explaining, the acting commissioner was explaining how he has a security feature where he has to put his finger on a machine to get into his office, and he was basically saying, like, where do you see something like that, where the building at Exco had more security features than the actual IT department, which needs to be secured. And he was just explaining how the staff morale is so low, and he is trying to restore that because that's obviously impacting on the work. Let's just listen to what he had to say.
Very importantly, these aspects, these disturbing aspects at the top, permeated to all levels in the organization and obviously created a fertile breeding ground for destructive gossip, fear and distrust, which even continues today. I need to say that this was compounded by certain arbitrary and unsympathetic HR processes, cases of frivolous and mischievous internal investigations. And it's an area I'll come back to a little later. Employee morale has been impacted very negatively. Even yesterday afternoon, I sat with the IT team. The impact on the staff morale is severe.
Lastly, he did strike a somewhat positive tune later when he made mention of all these promises to restore SARS to its former glory, but the retired Judge Robert Nugent questioning that because Mark Kingon is an acting SARS commissioner.
So it was quite surprising when we saw the judge saying, actually, you're not the commissioner. There is a commissioner, and that is Tom Moyane. He's just suspended. But I think Kingon came out quite strong in his response. He basically said, I am acting, but I have the authority to make very key decisions. So it's recommendable from him because he is dealing with an institution that has serious problems. We have a revenue shortfall of 50 billion rand. The IT infrastructure hasn't been refreshed for 4 years. And he is trying to obviously restore that and trying to rebuild very key departments. Despite the fact that he is acting, he is trying to ensure that he does the job at the end of the day, whether he's acting or not.
Okay, ENC reporter Heidi Jacos watching developments around the Nugent Commission of Inquiry into tax administration and governance at SARS under the now suspended Commissioner Tom Moyane. A quick break, more news after this.